And on today's show, we have Craig Gilbert, who is a mindfulness guru. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Hello, Vincent. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for giving us your time. Now, Craig, the first question I have for you, and I usually ask this to most of my guests, is you actually have lived experience of mental health issues. Can you tell us about, before Zen Life started, what was your own experience of mental health?
Sure. Well, sort of in my mid to late 20s, I suffered with depression. I had 3 years actually of quite severe depression. I lived on my own at the time, and I'd had all sorts of things happening in my actual life that kind of caused it. I lost my job. I was redundant from my job. My I lost my girlfriend about the same time, and yeah, I just felt very isolated and very alone, and that caused a lot of depression for me. So it took me a long time to kind of come to terms with a lot of things that happened in my life. And so yeah, it kind of started me on the path to kind of learning more about myself and about my mind, and how I could sort of help myself, really, having gone through a period of counselling and all sorts of things, really. So yeah, so it's very close to my heart. I know a lot of people suffer similarly. So yeah, it's kind of why I'm doing now, because it's to help as many people as I can, having gone through a similar sort of path to a lot of people.
So, Craig, what did you discover that allowed you to get onto back on track?
Sure. Well, the counselling certainly helped in that time in my late 20s, because it got me to kind of just start doing simple things in life, just like, and in fact, exactly what mindfulness actually teaches us is to be with the simple things in life, like drinking a cup of tea or just sitting in a garden enjoying the sunshine. And so I was encouraged to do little things like that. And I didn't know at the time that that was mindfulness. But it kind of got me onto a path. And then I started to read a bit more about, sort of mental health issues. And I came across a book. It was a Buddhism book, actually, but it was by Pema Chodron, called, I think, Embracing Uncertainty. It was something like that. And reading that book just completely resonated with me. It just like it was almost like it was talking to me. You know what it's like when you get to books like that, and it just completely resonated. And it was just, okay, yep, this is the way. This is what I can do to kind of help myself. Initially, it was all about helping myself, because obviously I was anxious and struggling a lot with a lot of different things. So reading that book was the first step, I think, to discovering mindfulness. And then from there, I went online and I did a diploma in it, and then did some more courses on it, and I've since been reading all sorts of books related to mindfulness. And now I share it and teach it as part of my, as an actual job. So I left IT and became a self-employed mindfulness practitioner. So, and I can honestly say I've not looked back from that decision.
Well, I can say, folks, that I'm going to tell you how I actually first met Craig. It was quite by accident. I had a friend up on holiday from Edinburgh, and we were visiting the village of Falkland, and I was just there to do some not mindful, macro photography, and there was an event on in the local town hall. And John said, it was John, my friend said, he said, let's go in and have a look. And at first I thought, no. But John said, no, let's have a look. So we went in. It was a craft fair, and I'm not really a craft person, but we went in and we were immediately drawn to Craig's stall, because he had these books and cards that appealed to myself and John, because myself and John are very interested in mind, body, spirit. Anything to do with mind, body, spirit, we're in there. And we saw his images and were immediately drawn to Craig's stall. And within a couple of minutes, the word mindfulness came up in the conversation. I knew, I thought, yeah, this, and John and I both bought a book of Craig's on his stall. And Craig was very open with us, or right from the beginning. He mentioned depression, and I would say that's the difference between a genuine mindfulness teacher and someone who's had no lived experience. If you're going to look for a mindfulness teacher, always ask them if they've had lived experience of anxiety, depression, and stress, because these are the people who can genuinely transmit transformation, and they can be an inspiration for you. Okay, so that's why I've got Craig on the show, because I know he's the real deal. He's had lived experience, and he's transformed his life from that depression into helping other people, and that's why I bought his books, and I even ended up going to some of his classes as well. So, Craig, tell us about Zen Life Fife.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, Vincent, for that. It was really nice of you to say all those things. Um, Zen Life Fife is me basically. I'm a self-employed person, and I before this lockdown, I was traveling across Fife delivering mindfulness courses and groups, to share the teachings of mindfulness. So I've developed a 10-week course, mindfulness course, that I do for organizations now, as well as groups and individuals who are interested. And so that gives people a thorough kind of grounding in mindfulness. But I also share the same practices with members of the public, people who just want to drop in, just as you did, Vincent, for a few times, just to drop in, minimal price, and sit and we meditate together and we practice mindfulness. And I share a bit of discussion on certain aspects of mindfulness in each session. And I also do mindful walks. So once a month I do, I pick a place in Fife because I'm based in Fife. So we kind of join together at a certain location, and we do a mindful walk where we're really taking the time to be slow and observe the trees and the birds and all of these things. So, and I also do one-to-one mindful mentoring as well. So if someone has a specific issue that they're not comfortable to share in a group, they can come to me just privately, and we can just talk about what's going on in their life, and I can offer some mindful advice, very gently to try and help them with whatever it is that's going on for them. So that's it in a nutshell, really. But it's been going for about this is the third year I've been doing it for, and it just seems to be growing. There seems to be a lot more interest in mindfulness these days, and could be because of the way society is at the moment, and certainly there's a lot more anxiety out there than there used to be. So I think there's a need, there's a real need for it, and it's I'm very grateful to be doing what I'm doing. So
Now, Craig is also an author. He's written several books on the theme of mindfulness, and as I said, when I first met Craig, I was drawn to a particular book called The Black Tree, which is because I said to Craig, I want a book on mind. Give me something on mindfulness. You see, you can get mindfulness from fiction as well as non-fiction, from movies and books. And so Craig suggested, here's my book, it's called The Black Tree, and I actually used that, and it is a very good resource for mindfulness if you want to understand mindfulness. And also Craig does a newsletter as well, and he writes articles in his newsletters which are also really good resources of mindfulness, and it's free as well. So Craig, you've written loads of books. Let's just look at The Black Tree. It's set in Scotland, it's set in Fife. Can you tell us what inspired that story?
yeah, sure. Well, I used to live in Kirkcaldy, so I got to know Kirkcaldy quite well, and the book's based in Kirkcaldy at the beginning. And I wanted to kind of highlight that, every day in Kirkcaldy when I went to the high street, there was always these homeless people sitting there. And it just got me inspired to write a story about a homeless person. And I was trying to put myself in a homeless person's shoes. Like, well, what does it feel to be homeless, to sit in the cold and the wet. So you find the beginning of the book's got a lot of snow in it. It's got a lot of coldness, because I wanted to try and highlight how difficult it can be for someone in that situation to be stuck out in all sorts of weather. Um, but then, because I was on my journey with mindfulness at the same time I was writing that, I decided to give the homeless person his kind of freedom, if you like, by learning mindfulness off the girl he meets in the book. And so he goes on this journey, and basically, when he's in his head and he's worried and frightened about things, he's attracting these dark fairies, which is part of the book. But when he becomes more mindful and more tuned into how he's feeling, he can actually combat the fairies. You know, he has the strength then to take them on almost. It's kind of like it's a fantasy, but it's based in Scotland because I live here and I love Scotland. I think it travels up to Perthshire as well in the book. And yeah, there's so many places that I've been myself that just gave me inspiration for the locations of it. But really, the homeless person is on a journey to becoming more mindful. And in so doing, he loses his fear, and so he's calmer and more able to live in life, which really echoed my own journey from depression to kind of more calm, a more calm state. So yeah, the book's really in some ways it's all about my own journey, but I've done it in a lovely kind of fantasy way, which I think is accessible for a lot of people. Rather than reading about mindfulness, if they're reading about fairies, but they're getting a mindful element, then that's brilliant. So that was the aim of the whole book.
So Craig, I understand you've been working on a sequel to The Black Tree.
Yes, I'm actually writing a trilogy, so I'm on the second of the trilogy now, and it's going to be called The White Fox. It's each one has got a colour in the title, and again it's going to be based in Scotland, and again it's following the same person, the main character Matt, who's no longer homeless. He's actually got a house now, and it starts in Falkland because that's where I currently reside. But there'll also be journeys across Scotland in the book, including the Isle of Bute, which is a place that I go to for mindful retreats, actually. And I go and I sit there on the beaches and I become more mindful. So it's got the Isle of Bute in it. And yeah, the fairies are back. It's a sequel of sorts. So yeah, I'm quite excited about it. I'm sort of halfway through it right now. So yeah, plenty of book projects still ongoing.
Good. So, Craig, most of the people that are watching this show generally will be suffering from anxiety. Can you give us two or three of your personal handy tips on how to deal with anxiety?
Yeah, certainly. Well, the first tip I would say is to try and be in the moment, with your little things in your life. So your cups of tea, you're sitting in the garden, try not to think too much about the future because that's where anxiety comes from. It's the what if this happens. And so it's good to try and let go of the thinking and come back to just where you are. Cups of tea, I'm a great practitioner of mindful tea drinking. Really good. So I would do that, but I would also, if you do get anxiety, is rather than run away from it or distract yourself from it, is try to sit with your anxiety, which can be quite tricky, but you're kind of breathing with it and you're treating it as your young self, if you like. It's your inner child that's just come back to say hi, I'm anxious. And just as you would if a kid came into the room with you, you would, give the kid a hug and you would say, welcome, it's okay for you to be anxious. I'm breathing with you. And you find when you're sitting with your anxiety like that it starts to shift in your body, and it eases and it lessens a lot quicker than if you were feeding it with your thinking. So my tips are let go of your thinking, come back into your body, with however you want to do that, whether you're just feeling the tea that you're holding or you're sitting enjoying the sunshine, and breathe. Really important to focus on your breath when you've got these uncomfortable feelings, and try and just be with them for as long as you can with kindness to yourself. And you'll find that your anxiety loses its grip over you, and it's not so much of a fear or a threat. You're just with it. Um, so yeah, there's my a few tips there. But your breath is the most important. So if you can, when you're feeling uncomfortable at any times, breathe. Just focus on your in and out breath, and you'll feel better straight away.
So you want to get in touch with Craig? Craig, tell us, how do people contact you?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm on all the social media channels. So I'm on Facebook. You can follow me there at Zen Life Fife. I'm also on Twitter. My ID is Craig Writer, so you're welcome to add me on there. I've also got a website that gives you lots of information on all my what I do, all my courses and groups. So that's www.craig-gilbert.com. And on there is also my mobile number, so you can text me or you can send a contact form message. However you want to contact me is fine. So yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from anybody if this resonates with you and you're interested. Yes. So
Craig Gilbert, thank you very much.
thank you so much, Vincent. It's been a pleasure.